traveling, living, working, and painting full-time in my Class B van, along with my dog, Willie Nelson. I'm Milo, and this is Milo Talks. Obsession is a funny thing. I don't think I'm obsessed with my dog, but I care about him a great deal. So much so that I decided to have a dog day. I feel like though he's with me 24/7, there are times where he's unable to come with me in some of the duties I have to do around the camp. And that is mostly because he's afraid of the side-by-side or the Polaris. I don't know if it's the engine, but whatever it is, Willie Nelson will not ride in the Polaris with me. So when there are times that I have to go and do camp hosting things that require the Polaris, he has to stay in the van. So he's actually away from me, I would say a total of maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours on those days that I have to work the campground, which isn't a lot. But all the rest of the time that he is with me, if we're at the van, he's actually on a long lead, but he's pretty much constantly tied up. So Willie and I had a conversation the other day, and I said, Willie, where is it you want to go today? If you could go anywhere you want, where do you want to go? And no, he didn't answer me, but I did think about it for him. And a couple things about Willie. He doesn't mind being in the van, but after about an hour and a half, he starts to become a little bit restless. So I try not to drive too far before giving him a break. So I planned out a day just for Willie. The plan was to take him to a place where he could get in the water because he loves the water, though he doesn't like to swim. But he loves to have his feet in the water. If I'm walking on the bank of a lake, he will have his feet in the lake and just walk right alongside with me. And it's the happiest I've seen him. So I really wanted to take him to the water. Now, I don't think it's odd to have a dog day. I feel sometimes, I don't know if I feel bad for him, but I have to do a lot of self-talk. Like, is he happy? Is this a good lifestyle for him? My thought was, let's go to a campground where we can hike. You can get your feet wet. We can, have some new smells and some new experiences, and I can get offline for 24 hours. So the plan was to go up to a national forest and to start our dog day. So it was only an hour away, which was perfect. So prior to traveling, I like to tire him out a bit. So we'll do the morning walk, I'll feed him, and then we'll go do a longer walk or playtime, whether it's throwing a ball, even though he's on a leash. It's just a long cord and it's not really attached to anything, but it allows me to kind of keep him in check. He can't get too far away from me, but when we're playing ball, he's focused on the ball anyway. So my hope is that I can wear him out a bit before I have to put him in the van. I wear him out that morning, then we go get gas, we get some groceries, and we take our hour drive. We get all the way up there, and the first thing I see is closed. But he doesn't understand closed. And all he knows is like, I'm ready to get out. And I can hear water because there's a rushing creek right at this entrance. So I go ahead, I take a deep breath, I pull over, let him out, and I let him just run in the creek. I sit in the grass and figure out what I'm going to do because I have a full day that I've planned just for him. And it just got interrupted with the fact that now I don't know where we're camping. I had checked online the day before. They didn't say anything about this place being closed down for 2 days as they treat the forest for bugs, which is great that they're doing that. I just wish they had posted it. Since we had already made the trip, I went ahead and loaded him back up, and we did make the trek up to the lakes. Hiked around the lakes a little bit, and then I realized I need to figure out where we were going to camp that night. There was another lake we had passed. It was a private lake. I knew it'd be a little bit more pricey than a state or national park, but it's a dog day, so we were going to go. I really wanted to stay at a lake that we could walk down to. So we headed out to that lake and paid for an overnight camping. I had not been to this one before. This is Monument Lake. It's actually called Monument Lake Resort. And we get to our campsite and we're boondocking, and the lady had put us right next to the lake. It was great. We were just, if I threw stones far, I could have hit that lake. So We get out and he is so excited. He can see other dogs in the distance. Those dogs actually were swimming and he's thinking to himself, wish I could swim. And I'm thinking, yeah, I know, buddy. He wanted to play with those dogs and I could see that. So I had to actually keep him on his lead and actually really monitor that he didn't just take off running towards those dogs. We're playing in the water, but then I started really paying attention to the ground. Now, this is where it's like having a 2-year-old on a leash. A 2-year-old that wants to put everything in its mouth. This lake, though it's a private lake, was not well maintained. It's sad to say, considering that I spend my days picking up litter. Like part of my camp hosting position is like making sure the sites are clean for the next guest. And it's become like a point of pride in some ways because you get to see what people drop behind. And I'm not even saying intentional. For the most part, I think people who camp, they are very neat. They pick up after themselves. They pack up what they bring. But every once in a while, it's like the little thing. It's the top of a beer bottle, water bottle, the twist tie from your bread, or it's just a little piece of plastic, the corner of a candy wrapper. All those little tiny things. Oh, and cigarette butts. Don't get me started on cigarette butts. But it's all those little things that I literally walk around with a bag and a glove and pick those things up. So here we are at a private lake and there are little pieces of plastic and trash and things all over the place. And I'm not actually even saying little. It was littered. There was a box in my campsite. There was a broken fishing pole at near my campsite. At another campsite, there was a dirty diaper sitting by the fire pit. If you can imagine, I'm now watching everything he does because, like a 2-year-old, my dog will put things in his mouth. He will reach down, sniff, and pretty soon he's chewing on something. So I'm in constant like monitoring panic mode going, don't put that in your mouth. Drop it, drop it, drop it. So it makes for a really stressful time. So even though he's having a really good dog day, I'm having a freak out like, oh my gosh, don't eat that. Don't, like, what do you have now? We only lasted there for a couple hours before I decided that I would be better off and more comfortable if we just headed back, which was fine. It had been a long day. I was only 30 minutes at this point from our campsite and a dog park. So we ended the day by going back into town, going to a dog park where he got to meet and play with a couple new dogs before we headed back. And as we started the day with a long walk, we finished the day with a nice long walk down to the lake near our campsite. And as the sun set, it had turned out to be actually a really good dog day. And I think he had such a good time that when we did get back, he put himself to bed, which means he jumped up in my bed and went promptly to sleep. Having Willie Nelson has been life-changing. And if you've had the privilege of meeting him, you would see why. All of my decisions I make have him in mind, whether it's how I spend my time, where I'm going, where I'm driving to, how long it will take. Is the place I'm going to make it easy or hard having him with me? Maybe I've put too much emphasis on having a dog, but he's everything I have. He is the one thing other than myself that I have to keep alive and keep healthy. And I think especially since he had been sick for so many months on and off when I first had him, that it put more pressure on me to make sure he's healthy and happy. So I monitor him so closely. You might say I'm obsessed, but it's not such a bad thing because having a dog day every day has proven to be a really great thing for me. As always, thank you so much for listening. And don't forget that if you're interested in any of my artwork, I have prints available through a lovely frame shop in Gretna, Louisiana called Creative Framing. Just reach out through Facebook to find her. Her name's Jennifer, and she's a good friend, and I'm thankful that she carries my art prints. Go see everything with a dog. Thank you for listening to Milo Talks. You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Milo Talks. Please be sure to subscribe and like to Milo Talks podcast on YouTube. Like to be a part of the show? You can email me at milotalkstostrangers@gmail.com.